Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, and we're only going to really focus on Bitcoin. Now, I know that today there is going to be, a talk, right? So there is going to be a presentation of Elon Musk and Cathie Woods and what's his face. Look, it's one of those situations where it could be buy the rumor, sell the news. It depends what they say. Most of the time when these sort of things happen, in my experience, not just with crypto, but generally across the board, people have a very good way of saying a lot without meaning anything, if that makes sense. So it might just be a lot of just stuff we've already heard, talking about fundamentals, long-term positions, what Bitcoin will become, but nothing immediately that should perhaps maybe even pump the price. And so what we're looking at here on the chart anyway, despite what's going to take place today, I don't know what time it is, but it will take place today. It's still the same as yesterday, which is that we're below all major moving averages. We come down to test the bottom part of the outside range. So this is the outside range here around 28, 29. This is the top of the outside range all the way up here at 49. Inside range, which is where the majority of our price action has been taking place, which is basically 33 and 40. And that 33 is an important thing to think about when we're talking about are we in a bear market? So yesterday I was entertaining the idea that we could potentially be in a bear market, and the reason is that most of the time when we come down below this green 50 exponential moving average on the weekly, does signify potential bear market territory. So normally, I suppose once we've already broken down below that level of support, the bear market's already underway. It's not always the case, but largely it is. So this is 2013. This is the big dump that people refer to as a similar, perhaps maybe a similar situation to what we're at right now. But even in this dump, that was an 80% retracement from here to here, and we didn't break down below it. But when we finally did break down below it, it signified a bear market where we accumulated down by the 200 exponential. Pretty standard stuff. And then when we finally broke above it, bull market on again. Then bubble pop 2017 into 18, and then once we broke down below that zone, it's pretty much the fate was sealed. It was bear market territory, and that's where we broke down from. Essentially, when we reclaim it, bull market's back on again. But this is the outlier. I suppose this also is as well. So it's not as nothing's very that simple in TA. And so when I was talking about what I really want to see is to get above that level, because every day that we're below there, I have to not side with the bears, but I basically have to acknowledge that they do have the upper hand when we're below there. We did spend almost getting on for 2 months below there on this occasion. We also came down for almost another couple of months in this occasion. So can we hang around just below it here on this occasion? Perhaps, maybe. And if that's the case, then it's just going to be a more, I say painful, just a bit more stressful trading scenario, really, because I can't get mega bullish until this area is reclaimed, which is more or less at about 33, it's about 33,500, more or less, give or take. My exponentials are very fat lines. 33,500, I'd need to see that reclaimed on a weekly. To then get bullish again. Not to say that I'm not bullish on Bitcoin overall. Of course I am. I always say it, especially to my patrons and stuff, saying, look, we spend more time in a bull market than we do in a bear market. So if you're looking at any kind of asset ever that's going to be more forgiving than something else, Bitcoin is usually one of those. It's pretty much at the top of the list. It's a very forgiving coin. You can make a bad trade on Bitcoin, and 2-3 years later, you'll be forgiven. Even the worst trades in the world, like the 2017, you bought the top here, it took a while, but you were still forgiven. Bought the top here, it took a while, but you were forgiven. And if you bought the top here, it'll take a while, but you're likely to be forgiven again. It's just always the way. I mean, this chart generally just goes up. It might not be like this forever, but I still think it's going to go up quite a lot over the next few years. So I'm sure the people who bought the top here will be forgiven. And there is a lot of on-chain data to suggest there's a lot of accumulation going on at these levels. Doesn't recognise that you won't see that on the charts. They're not taking place generally on exchanges, but there's a lot of purchasing going on behind closed doors that won't register on any kind of candle body. So that's Bitcoin on the weekly there, and you can see this is why I had to make that video yesterday. Say, all right, for the first time I have to now consider that there could be a bear market because we're below that green 50 exponential moving average, and when we're below there I have to take it for what it's worth. Now on the daily here, we're still in this descending channel. That's fine. We're probably going to come back up to test it. Maybe even just test the 10 exponential. But at the moment we're below all major moving averages. Still the same. Obviously it's going to be like this for a while. Death cross here, and the short signal for the Ichimoku cloud is still in play. So we're still able to carry on with that short if you took that short. It's not told us to get out of that trade. So I can't say that I'm expecting this to break down massively, although if we are potentially, teetering on the idea that a bear market could be in play, we have to recognise that much bigger lows could possibly take place. Now, with this event going on today, unless they mention something absolutely amazing, I mean like mind-blowing, then I don't see any reason for that talk to pump this price. I think the talk itself is likely to have been priced in for this candle body today, maybe. And it could be a buy the rumour, sell the news kind of event. But even without that, we look at this chart, what we see is a very clear pattern formed in this descending wedge. We also have more or less respected the bottom of the outside range as well. But every other aspect of the chart looks pretty manky. So, and I have to say that when you get these, even if somebody says in this event today that they've bought another $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? What's that really going to do? It'll cause a spike, just like this one did. This is Elon Musk's spike, right? So he says, I've bought Bitcoin. This is what happened. That wasn't because he bought Bitcoin. He bought Bitcoin around here anyway. He bought Bitcoin around these zones. But that spike wasn't him buying it. That was everybody else buying it because he said he'd bought it. That registered on the chart. So all these whales and dolphins and humpback whales and, I don't know, hermit crabs or whatever they call them these days, all of those guys buying peer-to-peer or over-the-counter, that won't recognise on here. Anything that you see here is generally done through an exchange or through some form of derivative of an exchange. So yeah, if there is something that is said today, it would be a retail spike, which would then come back into the formation. That's how I'd expect it to play. I don't think it would have an enormous amount of continuation. It might do, but these things usually don't. The chart usually conquers all news event. Most likely, they're just going to talk for an hour or two about how much they love Bitcoin and how proud they are to hold it and how they're looking forward to seeing it mature in the future, and nothing of any significance will be said that no one already knows already. They're just going to be loving Bitcoin basically on a public stage. But we'll see, and if that is the case, it's probably a buy the rumor, sell the news, and we'll see this dump back down, maybe back down to this support, maybe even down to the outside the bottom level of this descending wedge formation. So we'll just have to see. I'm not very hopeful with these talks that happen. In fact, I often find that they're probably a bit of a pain in the ass, really, because they don't allow. I mean, like I said, the chart will always do its own thing. The chart for me is key, but they don't help with with a trader's perspective. They just mess things up a bit, really, and they should just allow things to carry on. The Tron chart is a really good example of that. Back in the old days, Justin Sun would always be trying to pump his coin. He'd say stuff all the time, and he kind of laid off that for a long time. He's not even done that for a while, and the chart's become a lot more tradable now. But it was so messy and choppy because of all of that nonsense. And if you can just leave a chart to do its thing, it will do its thing. And that's the best way for a chart to behave. For you to try and pump it, or it getting pumped unnecessarily through words, tweets, events, this, that, and the other. This is just I'm not into all of that, really. I just find it a bit more. I just find it puts me off completely, to be honest. So yeah, we're still in the same situation as we've been for a long time. Inside range here, outside range here, descending trend here, and all oscillators more or less facing down. There are small glimmers of hope on the smaller term timeframes, obviously, as we've pumped today, but they're already reaching levels of pretty much peakiness. So I think if at best, with this move that we're seeing right now, would get rejected around 31,500, which is this 100 and 200 exponential moving average. The 200 exponential moving average and the 100 simple moving average, both lurking around in that zone there. That's probably where we're going to get rejected from. And if something special gets said, we could probably look over to the to probably reach the another $1,000 more, or at best 33,500, which is more or less the green 50 exponential moving average on the weekly. So I'm not looking for moonshots or anything like that. I can entertain the idea that we will have a big spike, but I'm not really thinking that we're going to make it past that 33,500 area. I think that's going to be the top area of today, even with some kind of news event. I think we'll end up closing the below there or at there at best. But if we can get above there and close there, especially on a weekly candle body, this is the most important thing. We've got a whole week to go. If we can close our weekly candle body above there, by 1 minute past midnight on Sunday, then I'm okay to start talking bullish again. But for the moment, we're having a nice bounce, but I'm not that hopeful about how it's going to play out. There's definitely more room. There is definitely room for the upside, definitely in the short term. But the bigger picture still points clearly to the down to me, and I think it's all about reclaiming that 33,500 area. Once that's reclaimed and proved to be support again, then we might be thinking that there could be potential upside soon, but not immediately. Soon. We can't have massive turnaround with a chart that looks like this. It's just, there wouldn't really be any particular signals or signals of strength. All of these moving averages are weakness. We're going to get rejected, or could get rejected, from each and every one of these. There's so many areas of potential rejection above us that it would be very difficult to break above all of them and then prove them to be support straight away. It's still going to need sideways. It has to really go sideways in order for this chart to mature correctly, and that's what we want. We don't want pumping through people saying stuff or tweeting stuff. You don't want that. What you want is a sideways, boring range for a prolonged period of time, for basically momentum to start to pick up to the upside, and that's what you want. You want momentum to pick up. You don't want, you're not going to win the race by sprinting for a mile or a marathon. You don't sprint the whole way. You pace yourself until you get to the end. And not that I've ever run a marathon, but think about it in terms of that. If you started a marathon with a sprint and you got in front of everybody and you're like, "Whoa," you're not going to win. You will almost certainly lose, to be honest with you, and you might even have a heart attack. And that is the same way that we have to interpret this chart. You can't just sprint all the way above all these resistance levels. You can't. You have to incrementally take them out one by one over a period of time, maybe throughout the majority of this year, at least the summer, at least the rest of the summer, and then each one that we take out builds momentum, and then once we've got above all of them, then they start to cross positively, as would the oscillators, and then eventually get above the cloud, and we get all our signals that we really want for us to then go, okay, the odds are in our favour now. I think we're going to go make some all-time highs at some point soon. I'm okay with Bitcoin right now, but for the moment right now, I'm not saying that this could be the low. It obviously could be the low, but there could also be lower lows, and we have to recognise that with a chart that looks like this so far, with or without this event that takes place today, there could easily be more lows, and it's likely that there will be until we start to reclaim some of these moving averages. And at the moment, we're below all of them, absolutely all of them. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.